going down. So let's go into that, brother.
Right.
Brother Rylob.
Yeah, right. So, like the brother said, we're going to go into Acts chapter 10 to show that, proving that the brother Cornelius was a so-called black man, according to the scriptures. He is of the nation of Israel, right? Because back in those days, in that time, there was a lot of politics joined to this whole thing because of the way they live their lives. Because the Gentiles, the so-called Gentiles of our people, they were not following the laws, and they were considered as being Gentiles, but they were actually Israelites, right? They were actually Israelites, not following the laws. They were following the other customs, the Greek customs, the Roman customs, and stuff like that. So they were outlawed and outcast, I should say, by the Pharisees or the Sanhedrin at that time. All right. So we're gonna go into it. We're gonna go into it right now. Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 10, verse 1.
You want to read first?
All right. Acts chapter 10, verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion.
Right, and Caesarea is a city in Judea. It's not like some brothers teach it's in Italy and stuff like that. Caesarea is in Judea. Read on.
You got that map that you showed me?
Yeah, I got that map.
We can bring that out because we want to bring everything out in this tape.
I got that map.
You know, you got that? Caesarea. Let me show me that map.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
got it? Yeah, bring that, and then you focus on it.
Yeah.
So we can really see.
I got it. I don't know if you can focus on this right here.
Just flatten out a little bit.
Yeah.
See it.
See that map there? Italy is way up here, and Caesarea is way down here in Judea. I don't know if you can zoom in on there.
Yeah, focus on where Israel
Okay.
is. Caesarea. You got it? Caesarea?
Got it? Caesarea is down here.
Show them where
the circle is
exactly
at.
where the circle
Where the circle is at over here. See the circle? Right, that's Caesarea
This
right
is
there.
hold it for a minute so they can get
Okay.
a good look at it. And then show them where Italy's at.
And Italy is way up here. What's that? That's like what, northwest?
Northwest.
Yeah, northwest of Judea. And that's hundreds of miles. Okay? That's not like a Sunday walk in the park. That's a journey. Okay? Alright? Alright, so we're gonna go back to the scriptures. Read on.
Acts 10, chapter 10, verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
Right, that was their name. The Italian band was a certain infantry in the Roman army. That wasn't the name of the whole army. That was just, he was a centurion, meaning a captain of hundreds, maybe 300 or 600 men. Okay, 300 to 600 men. That's the the normal. In those days, that was a number, regularly used for centurions. They say centurion meaning a ruler of hundreds. It can be 300, it can be 400, 500, 600, right? Read on.
A devout man.
Right, the devout man. Now that's a very important word right there, devout.
Can I bring something out on that? The Italian band, because like your brother said, the band was like a band of soldiers. Ever see Band of Brothers? That's where that kind of comes from, like a regiment. What do you call it? A regiment, a squad, different groups and bands of brothers that were fighting. If you read Acts 27 and 1, and when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus' band. So this was a band of warriors named after Caesar Augustus, you see. Right. So Augustus, because we know Augustus isn't a place, it's a centurion, it's an ancient emperor, way before this time, but this band was named after Augustus. This band here in Acts 10, it was named after Italy, the Italian band or regiment of soldiers, okay? Just like today, a lot of y'all in the army have different pet names for your your regiment or your group.
Different
That
infantry.
you had infantry, different names for it. And what are the names I had? You had the Fighting Tigers Regiment. Then you had another name for this regiment. Names they give themselves.
Some of them, they got numbers too. Some of them, like
Numbers,
the 21st Infantry.
Right.
You know, they got different numbers, you know.
Okay.
So that's just an example of, you know. Okay, so go back to the scriptures and, what that, verse 2 or 3?
Yeah, too.
A devout men.
Right, a devout man, meaning a loyal man or devoted man to the Most High, to doing the commandments and laws and statutes. When you look all over the scripture, and whenever you read devout, it means dedicated to doing the commandments of the Most High. Okay? It don't just mean just devoted to anything. It means devoted to the laws of the Most High. Okay? Or there's another word for a devout. You can say good, righteous, or upright. All that's other words meaning devout. And if you go into the dictionary, you can see that yourself. Read on.
And one that feared God.
Right, to see fear God. To fear God is to do the will of God, to do His commandments. That's why he said devout. It goes hand in hand. Okay, read on.
With all his house.
With all his house, not only him, but his family, his kids, his wife, everybody in his family, in his household, kept the laws and statutes. Okay? And he had to be Israel to even know the law at this time, because only Israel really kept the law. Other nations were rarely keeping the law. Okay? Read on.
Which gave much alms to the people.
See, he gave much alms because he knew the law of tithes. He gave alms to the people, meaning he gave money to the temple, okay, and also gave money to the whole nation of Israel, because he was a wealthy brother. He had, you know, he was a centurion, a captain in the army, you know, and he had wealth. All right, read on.
And prayed to God always.
See, he prayed to the Most High, always. Always. He was devoted, loyal, devout to the Most High God. Read on.
He saw in a vision, evidently, about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Most High coming into him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid, and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for memorial before God.
See, his prayers and his alms came up, you know, to the heaven of the Most High. The Most High heard his prayer, because his actions, his deeds, his works were so intense and so devout, okay, that the Most High had to take a look at his brother, because even though he was like an outcast being, because for one, the politics back then was, once you're dealing with the Romans, period, the Pharisees would not mess with you too much. That was the politics. Like if you were a tax collector was hated because he dealt with the Romans. They deemed anybody dealing with the Romans unclean. If you were a tax collector, you're working for the Romans in any form, they would say you're unclean because you're dealing with Gentiles.
The IRS.
Right. Like
everybody hates IRS
they,
today.
Exactly.
Back then they hate them.
Exactly. Because they look at them as the arm of Rome. They work for Rome. They're working for the devil. You see?
They always take too much.
Right. So that's how they looked at them. And one of the disciples was a tax collector. Matthew was a tax collector, and a few other brothers were tax collectors, and they looked at them as sinners, or publican. They said a publican or a sinner. They look at the same, you know, in the same light. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's the same way. Anybody who dealt with the Romans that closely, they were deemed unclean or Gentiles. You see? So this brother was in that predicament right here. Okay? Read on.
Verse 5. And now send men to Joppa, and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter.
Right, so the Most High was making known that from this point he was going to change that law. He's going to change that custom. Okay? He was bringing in men that were deemed unclean. He was making them clean. That's why when you read further down, it says, whatever that he cleansed, whatever the Most High cleansed, call no man unclean. Okay? Or common or unclean. Okay? So the Most High was going to do something about this, because all Israel should be one. There shouldn't be no separation. And by the way, the meaning of Pharisee means separated ones. So they were separating themselves for anything that have any appearance of sin or uncleanness in it. So that's why they were like separate. You know, they were using politics to separate themselves from the other Israelites.
And sometimes what they determined was clean, which they was kind of over righteous, or sometimes they were hypocritically righteous.
Right.
That's why Christ didn't deal with them, because these brothers thought they were holier than thou.
Right.
You know, they were teaching the law, but they was getting picky. You know, watching, looking at a gnat, but watching a whole camel walk by of the Spirit of the Most High, and what He really wanted us to understand.
Right. As the brother said, that give me Mark 7 and 1. I think it's Mark 7 and 1 or Luke. Get Mark 7 and 1. Either Mark or Luke, but let me check. Okay. What did I say?
Then came other unto him, the Pharisees.
Yeah, read on.
Mark chapter 7, verse 1. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled,
Right.
that is to say, with unwashing hands,
Right.
they found fault.
Right, so that's going in line with what the brother said. They were nitpicking at stuff that wasn't even really according to doctrine, according to law. See, they look at if you didn't wash your hands to eat, they would look at you as a sinner. Read that one more time, brother.
Mark chapter 7, verse 1.
Read.
Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashing
Right, so
hands.
they said the bread was defiled because they didn't wash their hands. Okay? So they asked him a question. Read on. He's going to ask a question.
They found fault.
They found fault. Read on.
For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands often, eat not.
You hear that? So in case if they didn't wash their hands, they wouldn't even eat, even though they were hungry. So they would not eat because they deemed that to be unclean because you didn't wash your hands. And Christ did that on purpose to show them there's no law. You didn't break any law if you wash your hand, if you eat without washing your hands. He did it on purpose. Christ could have washed his hand. He could have allowed it. He deliberately let his disciples eat with unwashed hands to prove to them that they follow in doctrine of men and they wasn't according to the Most High law. Okay.
Holding the traditions of the elders.
You hear that? The tradition was not wrong. You should wash your hands before you eat, but if you don't, Christ was saying it's not a sin. They were saying it was a sin and it was wrong. That's why they didn't do it. That's why they didn't eat with unwashed hands. Okay, read on.
And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not.
You hear that? Even if they're hungry, they just came from the market, they would not eat if they didn't wash their hands. They held it like a law of the Most High God. See? And there's no way in the scripture written that you should not eat with your hands unwashed. You should not eat if you didn't wash your hands. There's no way in the scripture says that. That's laws, that's what do you say? Tradition of the elders. Okay? There's nothing wrong with the tradition. You should wash your hands, but there's no sin in that if you did not. Read on.
And many other things.
And many other things. Christ only gave you an example of one thing. They had many other laws like that they kept. That was unnecessary. And holding people as sinners for doing. Okay? Just like today. A lot of brothers in prison for doing some type of petty stuff which isn't even breaking the laws of the Most High. Okay? Which is man's law. Okay, read on.
And many other things there be, which they have received to hold.
You see, they received to hold it as doctrine. They kept it as law, which was not written in the Old Testament or the New. Read on.
As the washing of cups.
Of cups.
And pots.
And pots. Okay.
Brazen vessels and of tables.
Right, they hold it as a tradition, not as law. Okay, read on.
Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders?
Right. So they were bold enough to ask Christ why he didn't follow the tradition of the elders, seeing that, they acting like he broke some major law. So Christ was making them understand the tradition of the elders is not, the elders are not God, first of all. The elders should be respected, but they are not God. They can't change the law of God or add any law, like the scripture says, don't add or take away from. You cannot add to the Most High's law. Okay? or take away from that. Okay, read on.
but eat bread with unwashing hands.
Right, read on.
He answered and said unto them, well, have Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites? As it is written, this people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
Right, so in other words, they following tradition more than keeping the love of the Most High. Okay?
So Cornelius was a righteous man dealing with the laws of the Most High.
Exactly.
About, let's go back
Exactly.
to Cornelius.
Let's go back to Cornelius before we get sidetracked.
It's good, but
Yeah.
I want to try to get this in here.
Okay, let's go back to
Right. Now,
Acts.
now when you read about Acts the 10th chapter, the Most High said he don't hear sinners. And one of the things why the Most High dealt with Cornelius is because first, he was devout, and also he feared the Most High. So when you read fear throughout the whole scripture, you can see somebody that's dealing with the word of the Most High. Alright, and then he was a sincere. So this vessel, which is a physical vessel of Cornelius, the Most High was able to use that vessel for his purpose.
Right. So go back to Acts 10 chapter,
That's fine.
and you have verse 5?
Yeah.
Okay, read on.
And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter.
Right, so Christ was going to break that yoke, okay, which was not a doctrine of the Most High, which was not the right way, okay. So he was going to show them ways how to. He showed Peter a vision. You know, the scripture is going to speak for itself. Read on.
He lodged with one Simon, a tanner, whose
Right.
house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do.
Right, and a tanner, you see, that's another thing too. A tanner was mainly unclean, and most people would not even deal with a tanner, because a tanner is a person who dealt with animal skins, dried skins and stuff, so he was mainly unclean most of the time. So that's why it mentioned that day.
Yeah, leather, tents,
Yeah,
all that
right.
stuff. Yeah, I can see how they be unclean all the
Yeah,
time.
all the time. All right, read on.
He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called two of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually.
Read on.
And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. And on the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up from the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
Right, so the Most High is going to bring this thing together, okay? He's at the same time, after he gave Cornelius the vision, okay, he's about to give Peter, the vision, the same vision, okay? Read on.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten. And while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
Right, so the Most High had Peter fall into a trance to show him something that he's about to reveal to him, okay? Read on.
And saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners,
Right,
and let down to the earth.
Right, and a lot of people get confused with the scripture, thinking that the Most High meant that you can eat unclean animals, okay? You can eat beasts like pork, okay? Shrimps, lobster, all manner of unclean beasts. But this is not what the Most High is trying to portray here, okay? The Most High is showing you that he's getting ready to bring in the people of some of our people who were called Gentiles, who were deemed unclean. He was getting ready to bring them back into the fold, okay, and not have any man be considered unclean or defiled, okay. So then he did this by Cornelius. This was the first instance when he did it by Cornelius, and there were a lot of people who came in after Cornelius, okay. Read on.
Let me read this.